Hello, Pure Mixers. Welcome back to Mix Tank. This is Mix Tank from Puremix.com. My name is Mark Abrams, and every other Monday-ish, I come on to review tracks uploaded to Mix Tank, which we like to think of as a think tank for mixing. Pure Mix members upload their mixes and then get comments from the community. And then, as I mentioned, I come on at live streams and comment on the mixes along with the amazing chat that is on my side here. And they drop amazing comments throughout the process as well. This is totally a community effort. Guys, this is our first one back since NAMM, and it was amazing getting to meet you guys at the Pure Mixers event and on the show floor at NAMM. That was such a blast. It was my first time back to NAMM since 2020, before that one thing happened that caused us all to have to live in our homes for 2 years. So yeah, it was great to get back and see NAMM back in full swing. It was a pretty crazy show. My rundown, I saw some cool pieces. One of my favorites was the Fairchild, they're not really calling it a Fairchild, but the Mercury 666 from Mercury Recording Equipment. That thing was super cool to play with. And then the other one that blew my mind was this company called Ace Studio Vocal. Crazy name, but they had an AI vocal tool, which there's other ones like this out there, but basically you program in notes via your MIDI controller, then you write the lyrics in the MIDI note, and then you choose a voice that will sing the part for you. This is the first time that I heard one that I actually thought was convincing. It was pretty crazy, and what is even crazier is where I think the tech is going in a couple years. I think it's literally going to be at a point where you'll be able to take dry vocals that you've recorded, put them into an AI model, and then play new parts in. And there's all kinds of negative implications that come with that. That's not the topic for the show, but cool things that could happen are: one, if you're not a singer yourself, you could write demo vocals. Two, you could come up with a background vocal arrangement or idea and then play it back for your singer. That could be cool. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes. So yeah, check that out. It's Ace Vocal Studio. If you Google that, you'll probably find it. That was interesting. So that was my NAMM. The rest of the time we were in meetings and hustling like crazy in order to line up amazing content for you guys on the platform. Met with a ton of plugin developers and people that I thought were making amazing stuff. Both for, finding new things for the included suite of plugins that's with your Puremix membership, as well as like giveaways and new ideas for the plugin show that we do, the Great Big Plugin Show on YouTube and all that. And yeah, it was a great show. But most importantly, it was so cool meeting you guys and getting to put faces with the names that I see every week in the YouTube chat and all of that. So thank you guys so much for saying hi, coming to the Puremix event, and everything that you do to help this all keep going. Really appreciate it. And I guess I'll do the YouTube thing. And if you're new here, please hit the like and subscribe and notification bells and all the YouTube stuff. It helps us to keep the program going with good stat numbers and everything. So, but that's not why we're here. We're here to listen to music, and super excited to jump back in today. So let's do it. Let's get right in. We have a bunch of tracks that people have already posted in the YouTube comments. If you're watching over on YouTube in the chat, let me know if you have a song up on Mixtank that you'd like to have played on the air today and have people give their feedback on, and we'll try to get to it. We're going to be here for a little bit, so this will be fun. Already got some pulled up. We're going to start today with this track from Deepend, returning Deepend, the man, the myth, the legend. This song is called Troubles, and here we go. Kenneth, your face is an alien. That's true. Hi. All right, my mute button is working now. Sorry, guys. We need an auto mute. Yes. Somebody email me with the best solution you can think of for OBS and auto mute. Let me go over that again. I'm stopping mid-song because, one, Deepend, I love this thing. It's amazing. You're crushing it. I love the mix. I want to give you guys something to listen to from here to the rest of to the end of the song. And what we're going to do, I've talked about this a bunch on here before. Sorry for the repeat, but I want you to listen in terms of depth. This is going to be easier if you're on speakers and headphones. It's a little bit more of a vertical movement going up top, but on speakers, you can think of it front to back depth. So to summarize, if I can remember what I was saying when I was muted, the drums, listen to the snap of them, the presence of them in the EQ curve. So their overall tonal shape. Also the transient attack of them, how fast those transients are, and then listen to the vocal and the smoothness and the tone shape of that. And the thing that I'm hearing in this is we've got drums up here and then the vocal kind of hiding back here and swimming. Not necessarily left to right movement, but just kind of back here occupying space behind those forward transient moments. So listen through it, think about the differences in tone and character, and transient response of the vocal versus the percussive elements that are happening in the mix. And Deepend, again, crushing it. This isn't an objective thing. This is noticing how he decided to paint on the canvas. So here we go. Awesome. That was a super cool track, Deepend. All right, my mic is on. We're good. I do have a button on the Stream Deck, surprisingly enough. And I even have one of those Stream Deck pedals, so there's no excuse. There's really no excuse. But anyway, Deepend, awesome job on the track. So hopefully you guys kind of heard that. You heard faster transients, a little bit more upper mid-range presence on the drums. And because the vocals had less of that, they sat a little bit behind the drums, creating kind of a deck of cards or depth inside of this mix, which I think is super, super cool. This is such a great example of that, and you did a great job, Deepend. Especially because of the style, too. This is as he says in the comments, this is a drum and bass style track, where that's more appropriate to kind of have that stuff kind of happening up front. It's a little bit more of what the track is about, maybe, than the vocal as in like a pop song. I don't know if you guys saw Taylor Swift won the Super Bowl last night. That probably wouldn't fly on a Taylor Swift record, but on this kind of thing, I think it works out really well, which is super cool. So in the comments, you said, here is a not very old project this time, but rather new. I did this 5 years ago, so the project is still working and I can edit all the channels mixing wise. Nice. So I went for a drum and bass indie pop sound here with heavy lows and clear highs. I feel the track is good. The only problem I feel is that the low seems a little bit muddy. Any comments are welcome. So the only thing I would say about the low end feeling muddy, there might have been a little bit of a kind of resonance bump happening in the low end. What I would do to look for something like that is identify what instrument it's coming from, or potentially instruments if there's a buildup between two. I thought I was hearing it in the kick drum a little bit, and maybe you could search for some kind of resonance that's happening down there in the kick where you feel like it's just kind of poking out of the speakers. And again, I use the front back thing so much for this. If it's feeling really close to me in a certain range, that's where I'll look to kind of deal with that situation. But honestly, I thought the kick sounded great. I thought the tuning on the drums was really, really good, that it's very musical. And that's honestly all I got. So thanks for the great example and letting me talk with my mic mute. Very cool. All right. Yeah, exactly. Too much NAMM recently is right, Martin. Exactly. All right. Cool. Great comments in the YouTube chat as well. So make sure you look there and keep those tracks coming in here. We'll get that working. Brennan Lyons from Session Wire has some options for the auto mute thing. I am going to hit you up about that. We're going to chat because I should probably be using that for this. Okay, let's move on to our next track, which is going to be from Flandy Bob. And the track is called Monde. So here we go. Let's see what the comments got. So back with a vengeance. I used some mouth declick and looked into that kick subs to even it out. Although I boosted a hefty amount of low mids into the guitars, there was not much in there to begin with. Hope I made it better, not worse. All right, so this is mix 2 from a track that's been up before. I recognize the song name, so looking forward to this. Here we go.
Monde, quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas rond. Forme de couture asienne, manufacture de gamins. Les chaussures brillent sous les projecteurs, les étoiles scintillent, présentent des couleurs à la fin de leur monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas rond. Le petit soleil, substitut de jour qui garde la ville en éveil au sommeil. Entre la sonnerie, entre l'insomnie, les rois, les fous et puis l'astronomie. Merveille, au réveil. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas. Les oeillets de porte, fenêtres ouvertes, sur les années mortes, claquées, bloquées. Politicos se sont poussés des ailes à mesure que tombent les barreaux de l'échelle. Au sommet, il reste con comme des pelles. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque chose ne tourne pas, monde. Quelque African frappe pour seulement entrer. Manhattan garde le double des clés. Amsterdam, qui donc achète, t'inquiète. On jouera à la machette. Monde, quelque chose ne tourne pas. Monde, quelque chose ne tourne pas. Monde, quelque chose ne tourne pas. Monde, quelque chose ne tourne pas.
Awesome, Flandy. Very cool. I love this track. It's fun to hear another version of it. It's been weeks since I've heard it, so it's hard to say like, this is way better. But I don't have a whole lot to comment on it. More of just like relative suggestions, I guess. So it sounds, yeah. You said that you use mouth declick on it. I think I remember saying something about that, and this sounds cleaner to me on there. So a couple comments that I had are on the very sides of the mix. I feel like it's got a widener on it, and that's causing some of the effects and everything to move out to the sides. The guitars are going really, really wide. And while that's not a bad thing, and actually in this case, it's not pushed to the point where my brain is, kind of having a freak out moment from like polarity issues or anything, which sometimes happens with stereo wood stuff. However, I do feel like it's kind of separating the band from each other a little bit, and it's not allowing things to feel as congealed. So the sort of the style of this, the drum tones, some of the treatment on the different instruments, this reminds me of like great work from Vance Powell, right? So because we have him on the site and there's a ton of content, it might be worth going to check out his start to finish series with, I would say for this style, I'd check out like the Illiterate Light one, or maybe even the Tyler Bryant. And I think you might get some cool creative ideas from it, especially in the drums. Like you're going for a very like, I don't know the proper words that I'm thinking here, but kind of sludgy, dark, like powerful, long drum sound. So like that kick, it's got enough space in it that you can stretch out the notes of that. And one way you can do that is parallel compression. If you do something where you're doing like a fast attack, very slow release, you could actually extend the note length of that kick drum. And then, if you have that on another fader, just blend it up underneath to try and get some length out of that and a little bit more grit. You want to be careful that you don't fight the groove on it, but if you have it just kind of pulsing with the notes and getting out of the way before the next one comes and everything, I think that could add some really cool vibe to it. Another note on the drums, I think the attack on the snare compressor might be a little bit fast where it's kind of clogging that transient and not letting it pop forward in the mix and cause some aggression. The effect of that for me is that the vocal feels a little more separated from the snare, which goes to the original point of things not feeling like they're all kind of congealed together and sloppy in like this, hard rock way. So the snare is being held back behind the vocal, which can be a really cool trick, especially if your intention is to have that vocal way out front where it is. If that's your intention, nailing it, and that's cool. Not everything has to, conform to something else or whatever, and that's totally awesome. If it's intentional, that's great. But that's kind of what I'm hearing was like, if the snare had a little bit of a slower attack on it, then it could kind of breathe a little bit more and connect a little bit more to that vocal and bring the drum sound a little bit forward. So one thing to look at there too would be if you have a drum compressor, like across the drum bus or something like that, maybe try working that in parallel or slowing the attack down on the thing overall to let those drums breathe a little bit more. That would kind of let things come forward a little bit and become a little bit more pushed together. The vocal sound has a little bit of a high mid forward kind of feel to it, which is also kind of doing the separation thing. Again, if that's the goal, like, then don't change a thing. But if you want to have things get a little bit closer together, maybe look at the shape of that, maybe, 5K-ish, and then just, I mean, who cares what the number is, just like sweep around and see if you're, boosting a little bit and you get to a spot where the vocal just kind of pops out of the speakers, that's where it's really speaking at, then maybe pulling some of that back might help it kind of sit inside of the track a little bit more. So basically, the track feels very separated to me. It's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're going for, but if you want to get a more like pushed together, messy rock kind of sound, trying to have some of those things bleed into each other almost might be kind of cool on this. But I think it sounds really, really cool, and you're doing a great job. Watch the chat for some extra help. Oh, Flandy says, no Widener. Awesome. Okay, so no Widener. Then if you wanted to explore what I'm saying, I would try maybe bringing the guitars in just a hair. They don't have to always live LCR, kind of like, hard left and right. If you pull them in, sometimes I'll put guitars, if I want them wide but not to be separated, I'll do like in Pro Tools it'd be like 75 on the panner, or any increment in between, but just play with like pushing things into each other a little bit. And then a lot of times, like, I'll reserve that super wide space for things like the vocal effects or background vocals, but it also depends on the track. If it's a guitar-centric track, maybe it's better on the outside. The last thing, I was thinking maybe in the bass, it could use a little push there. I think we talked about low mids on the guitars last time because of the comments that you left. If you don't have a lot of low mids in the guitars to push, you could always try bringing some of those high mids down and creating more of a tilt effect where it's going to emphasize the body of the guitar and deaden some of the top a little bit. But that being said, I think that you have a great mix here, and as long as everything is intentional in the way that you want it, great job. Watch the chat for some good comments. Oh my gosh, guys, hold the phone. We got Mike Ornsby in the chat. Mike is back. Amazing. Let me get your song in the list here, Mike. So this is Diversity. Sorry, I'm just writing it on my list. Diversity while coming together. Cool. We're definitely going to get to that. Studio Jaman. Awesome. Okay, up next is Tony Salazzo. Tony, welcome back. Good to see you again. The song name is Keep It Interesting. Sounds like a good plan. Here we go.
Have you noticed that the most delicious meal tastes completely awful, eaten every day? Doesn't matter how once it made you drool. Soon enough you'll be yearning something new. Keep it interesting. Same is not enough. Are you listening? You need to spice things up. Have you noticed that enjoying a new taste and combinations make for fun experimentation. Keep it interesting. Same is not enough. Are you listening? You need to spice things up. Keep it interesting. Same is not enough. Are you listening? You need to spice things up.
Awesome job, Tony. Very cool song. I love the track. This is cool. Okay, so over on the comment side, you say, hi, my concerns are I wanted the vocals to stand out, but hopefully not in a bad way. I wanted the toms in the chorus to resonate powerfully, but hopefully not muddy or overwhelming. I probably missed something obviously bad. Any feedback would be welcome. Cheers, Tony. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our deck of cards thing, the depth idea in mixing. And what I love about your comments here are you said a couple things. So I wanted the vocals to stand out. I wanted the toms in the chorus to resonate powerfully. Those are the two main ones that you put in there, I guess. So what that tells me is like you went into the mix with, again, an intention, which is probably my favorite word of the last couple of years. But you went into it with an intention instead of just like pushing up the faders and then randomly hoping for something cool to happen, right? So if you go in with knowing I want the vocals to stand out, if you, again, like think about what that means to you, the vocals need to stand out, meaning they're the most prominent, important thing of the mix. The spotlight is on the vocal. And then the toms thing we'll get to, but you want the vocals to stand out. That's great. So for them to stand out, if we think about that front back thing, this is specific, kind of the speakers at the moment, but we'll talk about that. The way I would start this mix, if I were approaching it, is I would pull up, you know, kind of the root of the track. So maybe since there's a decent amount of percussion in this, I might start with like kick, snare, or the drums on this. And then once I had them sitting well, then I'd bring the vocal in. But before we talk about bringing the vocal in, the way I would bring these up is I would, with my kick and snare, I would start bringing those up. And this is one of the only times, like, you should only look at the meter for this couple seconds here, right? So, and this is just a trick, works for me. It might not be great for you, but I always look for a spot on the meter that I'm going to park what I would call like the center pillar of the mix, right? So kick, snare, bass, those kinds of elements, I would find a place to park them, and then they become the reference point for everything else for me. So kick and snare, you know, let's just say that you pick, I don't know, like on a peak meter -5, and you get the transient snapping around there. At that point, like, you can shape them, and later in the mix you can turn them down and all that, but for right now, leave them there. Bring things up around it. So you've kind of decided where those guys live, and then if you want to start bringing the toms up, you're bringing them up relative to those things, right? You're not necessarily going to find your final sounds and all that at this moment, but once you get things parked, close the meter, forget about it, and then never do a nerdy thing like that again for the rest of the mix. And then start bringing the vocal up, and you want to push it until you get it to the point where the vocals are standing out, but hopefully not in a bad way. So the second part of that, once you bring the vocal up in front of those things, now you can start to shape it in a way that makes the vocal feel comfortable inside of the mix, but it's sitting in front of those elements. And at this point, you might need to start treating like the kick and the snare, maybe on the snare. If you need it to sit behind the vocal, you are doing things like putting a compressor on, using the attack time to make sure that the transient sits behind the vocal and parks right there. And then you've got the vocal hopefully sitting in front. Obviously, there's a billion other tricks, and we can't teach a whole mixing class in my comments for Tony's track. But at that point, you've established who the leader is inside of the mix, and then you can start painting around it. So bringing up the other elements and thinking about them in terms of like how forward or back should they be in relation to those other elements like the kick, the snare, the vocal? Are they in the same line depth-wise with the vocal, or are they back here with the snare? If we wanted the vocal to stick out, the snare is probably behind the vocal, so we could put the guitars on the same plane as the vocal and still have the vocal sitting out front. Now, as far as in a bad way, what I'm hearing in the vocal sound of this track is that it's really, really de-essed. So you had a lot of high end to deal with. That was either through character shaping that you did, trying to make the vocal feel important, or with like the spreader effect, the micro shift sounding effect that you have on the vocal. And then you had a lot of S-ing to deal with. If you start kind of with the volume thing, it's amazing how you won't be tempted to do things like push EQ to get the vocal to stand out in front, because you kind of already said this is where you're going to live in the mix. Now you're just doing some overall tone shaping to make sure that it stays there and isn't conflicting with things, but you're not doing things like cranking 10K on a Pultec all the way just to get the brightness out of it or to make it pop forward. So that's one approach. It might not be the right one for this, but that's how I would approach making the vocal stand out, but not in a bad way. I wouldn't have gotten to this point with a bunch of over processing. It would just be about fader balance and then shaping things in the way that you want them to sit in the mix. Toms in the chorus. Speaking of that, if we've got the vocal sitting where we want, the kick and the snare sitting where we want, if we start bringing up those tom faders, it becomes a matter of like, again, where do I want to place them front to back? Do I want to bring them up closer? Or do I want them to sit back a little bit? And then I can start doing things like shaping the bottom end of them and paying attention to that low end interaction with the bass instrument, like the kick or like the bass guitar or synth. So I hope that helps a little bit. Things that I do here inside of this mix, I feel like that micro pitch effect feels pretty heavy, pretty strong. And then the guitars and stuff feel a little bit recessed, a little bit washed out, and sort of like you're fighting to help them find their place, but already after you've gone so far as to like put a lot of effects on things, so you might be pushing against yourself. Let's just listen to the last chorus now that I've like said a whole bunch of crap and we all forgot what the song sounded like. All right, here we go.
Same is not enough. Are you listening? You need to spice things up. Keep it interesting. Same is not enough. Are you listening? You need to spice things up.
Yeah, I think you've got a really great thing going on here. It just needs a little bit of tightening. It's almost like the focus ring on the camera is just a little bit blurry, and you just got to center it up a little bit. So watch out for those time-based effects, those modulation things that might be causing signals to feel blurry or chorused. And I think you're on the way though. This is super, super cool. And one thing I say, and I'll say again because I think it's important, is always remember you have a save as feature, and we need to practice the same way that you would on an instrument. It's very hard to get better at an instrument unless you're playing a ton, like in clubs every night or something like that. It's very hard to get good without having some sort of practice routine on there. And it really is the same for mixing. There's no rules that say, maybe this is obvious for everybody else and I just had to learn this the hard way, but there's no rules that say like you can't sit down at your DAW, pull up a multi-track, and just experiment with techniques like the one I just said, or other techniques that you've heard or read or whatever, or that you come up with with by yourself, just thinking about mixing in the meantime. Just pull some tracks up and try these things out. Try placing things, try, just playing with an effect for one day or whatever, but having some sort of practice where you're like, today I'm just going to like mess around with this one thing. I may never open this project again, and that's okay. I may never open this mix again. That's okay. I've got the other one I can always go back to. So practice is important, and never be afraid to do a save as. Do something wild that like might be completely wrong, and then you can say either, wow, I learned something, or I'll never open that again. And that's okay. So, all right. Off of my high horse. All right, let's see what we got next here. Chris W. So Chris wrote in the chat, this is his first Mix Tank. He's been a longtime Mix Tank contributor, but this is his first time submitting and first time on the live stream. So Chris, welcome. Thank you for coming. His track is called Obsession. And he says, would love feedback about the guitars in the chorus and whether they're blending well, whether the verses are scaled back enough to make the chorus pop, and is the vocal a little bit too brittle? Any other feedback is welcome. I think he says that. I'm adding words. Thank you. Okay, here we go. HD, because that's the kind of people we are. Here we go.
We've been apart so long, you know I can't tell me right from wrong. Well, I wanna call you on your telephone, but your phone keeps ringing, you're not home. The way we left was meant to be, you know. I need you, you know, you need me. And with a little time, I think you'll see that I've changed my life around. Being apart don't make much sense, you know. I lost my job, I can't pay my rent, cause I'm thinking about you and me, the way we're meant to be. Well, I don't see you anymore, and I don't know, no, I don't know what to do about my dreaming. Well, I don't see you anymore, and I don't know, no, I don't know what to think about all the time we spent together, the afternoons and the perfect.
Sorry, I got a comment on the tone of that tremolo guitar. Tremolo? How do you guys say it? Try to tell me with your keyboards in the chat. Anyway, the tone of that is awesome. I love that. Just had to say that. Great job.
Won't you hear me calling to you to come back to me right now? I don't care what your girlfriends say, cause you know they just want things their own way. Stop, listen, turn around, baby, come join me in my song. There's plenty that we can't do. We can't smoogle in a dingly weeds of me and you. Come on, baby, 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 we got nothing to lose except a little wool sock or two. Well, I don't see you anymore, and I don't know, no, I don't know what to do about my crying. Well, I don't see you anymore, and I don't know, no, I don't know what to do about my singing. Well, I don't see anymore. I'm so lonesome. I just pick up my guitar and play. You come back to me another day. Cause I don't see you anymore.
Awesome, Chris. Great job. I'm going to go back to a chorus and listen one more time to focus on your comments here. And here we go.
See you anymore.
and one more time a little further back.
See you anymore. And I don't know, no, I don't know what to do about my crying. Well, I don't see you anymore. And I don't know, no, I don't know what to do about my singing. Well, I don't see you anymore. I'm so lonesome. I just pick up my guitar and play. You come back to me another day. 'Cause I don't see you anymore.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So great. I got Mike Ornsby says Tremolo. And then Frank spelled it out with dashes. Tremolo. Tremolo. Roads. Okay. Cool. So he says a little more info. I added a 12 string on the left and a second 6 string in the middle. They don't sound cohesive to my ears, if that makes sense. Right, not left. Okay, so 12 string on the right, 6 string in the middle. Yeah, so let's talk about first. I think the guitars are your biggest concern in this, but I heard a couple of vocal things. So the background vocal sounds like it has the microshift thing going on with it, and it feels like it's stepping on the lead vocal once in a while when they're going at the same time. It might be cool if let me know. Well, yeah, let me know this and we'll come back to it. Did you put the doubling effect on a send kind of situation where you're sending out to an aux return that has that effect on it, or is it an insert where it's directly on the track? That's thing number one that I want you to know me. So is the doubling effect on a send? Thing number two, do you have a mix bus EQ? Like, is there an EQ strapped across the mix bus on this whole thing that you might be boosting some top end on? Let me know in the chat if you do. Going back to comments. So with the guitars, the blend of them, so the panning of them, having the one guitar kind of up the middle is pushing a lot of rhythm right behind the vocal. And it's gonna have to be treated differently in order to not step on the vocal, right? So if you're wondering if they are blending well, having it pan there might cause you to turn that one down so the vocal doesn't, get covered up by it, while the 12 string might be popping out more. So you might play with the panning of that, even if you're just panning it off a little bit to the side, just to get it out of the way, and then you can do a little bit more of a balancing effect with those things. Let's talk about the vocal being too brittle. I do feel like there's a lot of top on it, which led me to the question of the mix bus EQ. Okay, so we got some. Okay, sending to a room emulation for both vocals, Chris says in the comments. And then yes on the mix bus EQ. He says he blames Fab. I blame Fab for a lot of things. Everybody write Fab and tell him you blame him for something. Okay, so on the mix bus EQ, you might have a little bit too much top going on, because the top I'm hearing on the vocals and the guitar seems like it is a common thread throughout other elements in the mix. So that's why I asked that question was, is that texture or that tonal shaping that I'm hearing mix wide? It might be interesting if you tried playing with bringing some of that back. Do a save as. Again, save as is a great thing, because it might not be the right vibe. I don't hate the tonal shape of this, but it does feel like things are interacting with each other in a global sense, versus like, do I want the vocal to be nice and clear, and then the vocals or the guitars to also be that way, but not in a way that they're stepping on the vocal? If you're equally kind of bringing things up across all of them, then you don't really have a way to control those things individually as much, or you're going back to the individual instruments and then doing things like turning the top end down because there's a lot of mix bus EQ. Hopefully that made sense. I don't think the vocal's too brittle. I think it lacks a little bit of low mid, which you could try just bringing some EQ in, or if you back off that mix EQ, you might find it being more blended. The only other stuff, again, I love that guitar over on the left that's doing that. Let me listen chorus one more time and see if I can give something more useful. 1 second. So it does almost sound like the bottom end of the kick feels a little bit hefty. It's not like overly a problem, but there might be a little bit too much information between like 80 and 100, just causing it to have a little bit of woof down there. And then obviously like you might want to play with the high pass filter just to like watch out how the sub range is playing. It's not overly bad or anything. In the bass guitar, I hear a little bit of a mask or a resonance popping on just some of the higher notes. So it might be worth looking at the low mids on that. But then more importantly, listening to how the bass connects with the guitars, I feel like there is, it's almost like there's missing information. If you're looking at your graph of frequencies or whatever, if you have like Pro Q and you were looking at all of it, feels like there is a dip in the low mids, like 220 or something like that happening between the guitars and the bass. So the bass is doing a good job of holding down like very low information or low mid information even. But then there's going to be a dip before the guitars take back over. Like they don't have a ton going on below, like say, I don't know, 400, whatever, who cares about the number, but feels like in the mix, there's a missing bit of information in there. So that might be something to check out. I hope that helps a little bit. So cool. Yeah. So play with panning, play with EQ shape. But it sounds great already and an awesome job. Okay, Carl. Carl says, hello, good afternoon. Hello, Carl. If I already am a free registered member, is it possible to submit my mix? I think Mixtank is for pro members only. So unfortunately, no, but you can, I believe, go on and listen to mixes and possibly even comment. Not sure where the break is there, but it is for pro members. But thank you for being here, Carl. That's awesome. Okay. Let's go on to our next mix. Thank you again, Chris. Thanks for being here too and hanging out. This is great. All right. Our next one is called Monsters. Monsters from Wyke. And he says, hi, as I'm working on a new single, I'd love to receive your opinion. Anything is welcome. What I find most difficult is low end. Thanks. Here we go. Let's check it out.
I was down in the middle of trying to be someone when you came and saw me for what I really was. Took me to a better place I've been hiding from. Finally found back my own old face, maybe broken but as one. And you took me over the hill when I was running from the monsters that were living in the back of my mind, chasing all my dreams away. And your light was shining so bright that they closed their eyes and died that way on the day you gave me my life. When I woke up that morning, drowning matter of nothing, branches around my neck and mud all over my face. But there you were again, and you brought me home to a place filled with love, a place where I belong. And you took me over the hill when I was running from the monsters that were living in the back of my mind, chasing all my dreams away. And your light was shining so bright that they closed their eyes and died that way on the day you gave me my life. Oh, you are my life, oh, you are my life, oh, you are my life. Oh, you are my life, oh, you are my life, oh, you are my life, my love. Your light was shining so bright that they closed their eyes and died that way on the day you gave me my life.
What a track, man. I love Mix Tank. That was fantastic. Great job. Okay, I hear a couple things in the mix. Man, when the song is that good, I don't know. It's one of those fun things where you're just like, a great song. You know, we can talk about stuff, but man, it doesn't matter. You know, in some ways. But we'll pretend it matters. Okay. Very cool. So. Let's chat about the piano compression. So I think somebody else pointed that out here too. So Harriosa, I felt like the piano is too compressed. The voice feels alone. Great voice and singing. Okay, so I also think that the piano is a little bit too compressed, and a key indicator for that is how the sustain in the notes changes, right? Like, so there's a ton of sustain in between those, and while there's, you know, that's very clearly the part, it's very legato and meant to be that way. Even, you know, like with the sustain pedal, there's supposed to be a lot of harmonics over, you know, kind of going over each other and everything. But I do feel like a lot of that's being brought up to an unnatural place due to compression. So check out the release time on your compressor. Maybe let it go a little bit sooner so that it doesn't continue boosting up all of that resonance. If you think about what you could do with a snare drum, forget about a piano for a second. With a snare drum, if you have a fast attack and a long release, it's going to snap that initial transient down and then slowly over time let more of the decay of the note ring out, but it's going to have a inversion of the envelope, right? So you're going to end up with a longer decay on the back end of the note than you did of the transient. Same goes for something like a piano. If you smack it down and then you have a long release, it's going to change the envelope and have more decay on the notes than it had of the initial attack. I'm not hearing that the attacks are lost in this, but I am hearing that those sustained notes feel like they're being brought up quite a bit. So I think if it got to breathe a little bit more, that would make some more space for that vocal to live in, where they don't feel like they're competing quite as much. I have a positive comment for sure to say about the arrangement of this. When the strings come in, there might be some EQ things to watch out for, but great job on the arrangement because they're happening in a place that is outside of where the main melody of the piano is happening. That's good arrangement. Mixing starts obviously with arrangement, and if you have a bunch of instruments playing the same note in the same range in the same octave, now you've got things competing, and you know, we jump in with our EQs and try to fix it, but it comes down to sometimes that's an arrangement issue and things just need to move around harmonically a little bit in order to find their place to sit in the mix. Okay, so next thing was a little bit of a low mid mask in the vocal. So I feel like while I wouldn't brighten this vocal up per se, I like the darker tone of it. It does feel like there's an area in the low mids where the anytime a note hits around there, it's getting a boost of energy. So that could be like a mic resonance. It could be due to compression or some other things. I don't really have any complaints about the compression of the vocal. I don't think I heard anything like that. But I do hear that when she gets in a certain range, that there's a group of frequencies that just kind of bloom a little bit more than the rest of the vocal does throughout the performance. So again, one way I just go and, you know, listen for that is like listen on certain words. If you feel like a little bit of the low mids kind of jump out at you and become a little bit more forward in the mix, that might be a place to just go in and make a little nip tuck with an EQ. A valuable video to watch that I actually just ran across this morning for a different project that we're doing, vocal EQ taught by Fab, and he does an example of this that you could watch, and it might tune your ear to go listen for it. So I think it's How to EQ Vocals is the name of the video, taught by Fab. So check that one out. It might train you how to listen for a mask like that. And then I did hear the same thing in the piano. I would play, before trying this EQ thing I'm going to say, I would try messing with the compressor first and giving it a little bit of a faster release because it might solve your issue. But I also heard a similar thing a term for this is called masking. It's just when a certain group of frequencies, they jump out and they make it seem like they're overtaking other frequencies. So they're putting a mask over everything else. So I'm hearing a bump in energy around 400 to 600 in the vocal, or sorry, in the piano. And you just have to go through and look where it might be popping out and coming to life there. You don't want to go like too crazy with this, and you also don't want to go on this, proverbial witch hunt for these things or whatever. Like, don't go looking for problems unless you hear them. I feel like it's so easy to do that, and half of our modern tools, with EQs, like a fab filter where you can solo a band and scan around and all that. You can go hunting for frequencies all day, and you can find them. That might sound like a problem in that context, but then when you carve all those out, you end up having these holes in your signal, and maybe it wasn't even a problem in the rest of the mix. So be careful about hunting for stuff like that. As far as the low end question that you had, I do hear the big boom on the kick drum sound that you have going on there. I hear like all that low end rolling around. I would say, try playing with a high pass, but before you play with a high pass, I would play with volume first. So it might be cool if you have that at low level happening in there. The thing right now with that much low end, I feel like it's jumping out of the speakers and becoming a bit forward because of all the amount of energy that's happening down there, and it's not being contained and controlled. So maybe try just backing it down, seeing if that fixes your issue. And then the next thing I would try would be a high pass filter. You don't have to go super high with it. I love personally the dangerous back CQ for this. I think Plugin Alliance makes a plugin version, and it's also on the UAD platform. But I love it because, there's select frequency notches on the high pass filter. And basically, I'll just go up a notch and listen, go up and listen. And I'll see how high I can go before the tone of the instrument changes, or the overall emotion or the energy I want from the instrument changes. Once I find out where that is, I'll go to the next step back. And if it's back, I'll leave it alone. And that's where I've decided to set that thing. So usually that'll just kind of, you can do it with any high pass filter though. Just roll it up until you feel like you get a negative result, and then go back and then make sure that you're doing a positive thing, and you're usually good on there. I don't know if I go high passing everything. That's a topic for another day. But on the specific one, that's how I would do it. I would try with the back CQ, and I would just go notch, notch, notch until I found too far. And then I go back a notch, and then, see if it's under control. Before you do that, though, again, just play with the volume and see if you can make it sit that way. If you can't get it loud enough without being too boomy, then you need to high pass. There we go. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for submitting that. That was a great song and really, really fun to listen to it. Very cool. Let's see. Craig Wallace says, feels like the vocal and piano are in two separate spaces outside of the compression. Yeah. So play around again with getting those things balanced out EQ wise. And then I think he's kind of I'm going to put words in your mouth, Craig. But I think he's probably referring to like acoustic space. So maybe explore some of that if you feel the same and you want to congeal those. All right. Keith Warman, yes, I can fit yours in. Let me know the song name. I don't think I have you on my list yet. So yeah, let me know the song name if you could. All right, next up is La Luna Lean. And here we go. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Liana, sorry. Okay, here we go. HD.
Yeah.
Sorry, I messed myself up there by putting in AirPods. 1 second. Let me refresh here. I think we were around there. Get this. Oh, I got logged out. Look at this. I got to choose a plan. All right. Community mixed. Who is that guy? All right, here we go. Let me put this back in. Sorry, everybody. The reason I went to AirPods, just to explain why I caused that problem, I wanted to hear how the balance was translating into headphones, because this feels like a headphone mix to me, and I'll explain why in a second. Hariosa, let me know if you're on headphones or not, and we'll talk. Here we go.
Cierro estos ojos y me explota la ciudad. Escucho los gemidos de mis manos al volar.
Well, the bad news is I think you need a new tape machine. The good news is that it happened at the end of your print. So that's awesome. What effect is that you got it to ramp back up after doing the tape slow down and then ramp back up? Because that's super cool. I might want to steal that. Very cool. Okay. So I asked about the headphones thing. Hariosa said no headphones, just a fast mix and master. Cool. So couple things I was hearing was the reason I was thinking headphones, because the vocal was very much recessed behind the drums, and I feel like that's a very easy, like disconnected in a way where the drums are very far forward. I feel like that's a thing that's easy to happen on headphones, but you're not on headphones, so it doesn't matter. So drums had a lot of snap, attack. They're good sounding drums, but they're very much in the front of the mix. The vocal was the secondary player to it. So if you were playing this on stage and we wanted to be respectful of the mix visually, we'd say like, okay, drummer's going to be at the front of the stage. The singer can sit right behind him. or whatever, and then sing out, kind of like Tool, you know? But yeah, so the thought would just be like being intentional about, again, that depth thing that I've been kind of talking about on here throughout. But on that, the snare being very clear, more clear than the vocal. The vocal feels like it's a little bit, it doesn't have as much mid. It's not as transient or snappy fast. Those things make it feel like it sits behind the drums a little bit. And then also just volume level and balance or whatever, you could play around with that to kind of push things around if you wanted the vocal to be up more up front. There's a thing to talk about here about mix and master. I personally hate when I see like, I'll mix/master your song on like Instagram or whatever. Those are two very, very different things. And I feel like they get interlocked a lot in the way that people think about the process, because, you know, what mastering is and what you're actually doing, you could make a couple different arguments about it, right? Like you could say it's just more two bus processing or whatever, but it's, if I say it's more than that and then don't give an explanation, it's really just accentuating the problem, right? So I like to think of mastering as like we've gotten this thing to sound the way that we want it to sound. Like this mix is, for all intents and purposes, ready to go, ready to release. When I play it for somebody, I don't have to say like, well, it's not mastered yet, right? Like, because then it's not done. It's not a done mix. So I reserve mastering for like okay, I've gotten the mix where I want it. I've had some time away from it. Let me do a listen down, put on, you know, maybe my technical brain and just listen for things and just see if there's something I can do to accentuate it further. But now I'm dealing with the mix as a whole. I'm not like trying to bring the vocal up or doing anything like that. And then, you know, maybe you're looking for that level thing, but you shouldn't have to do anything so heavy-handed that it would change the mix. All of that to say, like, I feel like some of the things I would comment on this might be being caused by a mastering process on here as well. So it's just something that I felt like pointing out. It sounds really cool overall. I like the song. The groove is fantastic, as pointed out by our friends in the chat. And yeah, I love that ending. You say you don't like your voice. That's why I'd always go a bit back in your mixes. So I totally get that. It makes sense, and that's one of those things that like makes it really hard to mix your own music too, as Wyke was just saying a minute ago. That it might be a reason for you to like reach out to another mixer. You shouldn't be recessing your voice because you don't like it personally. I think that you have a cool voice, and it's just about making it interesting to you, right? So like finding a way to make it interesting to you. But I think you do have a cool voice, and you should not be afraid to get it up in front of the mix. However, if you know, this whole thing, just to kind of reiterate this again, mixing is like, it's a subjective process, right? Like objectively, nobody can tell you your voice should be much higher or whatever. This is all about what your intention is and what your vision is. So if you like that, then awesome. I want to check one thing in the bottom of the mix. Hold on one second.
Gente que se va corriendo sin saber que hoy la luna está llena.
Once in a while, the bottom is opening up in a way that like it really extends and bleeds out. There's a lot of decay going into the next note. That could either be a thing that's happening in mastering or just some loose sub stuff that you could play with a high pass filter, like I was talking about on the last track, about just doing a little tuck and, you know, going to the point where like, oh, that's where it starts changing the tone in a negative way. Let me back that off. It might help to just do a little cleanup down there. But yeah, very cool. I would also watch out maybe for compression on the bass. It might be good to add a little compression and make sure all those notes are happening at an even volume and not jumping way out of the speakers. You don't want to take all the dynamic out, obviously, but you also don't want one note to be way louder in the bass than another note, unless you do. In that case, great. But if you're trying to get basic control, then you want to watch out for that. Okay. Cool. Let me know if you have any other questions about it, Harry. I think you did a great job. Okay, he says tape effects at the end was Shaper Box by Cable Guys. Thank you. I'm totally going to go get that so I can do that to my tape machine. Here, this. That's amazing. I love it. Very cool. All right. Yeah, awesome. Check out the chat here. Wyke is also talking back on that. Wyke, great song, by the way. That's amazing that that's your track and your writing. So much talent in this group. All right, Palisades, I got your track. Very cool. We'll get to it. Let's see what we have going on here. Our next one is Pizzicato. Let me write down Palisades on here too. And let me cue up the next track. Here we go.
Life started as a game to play. I had it all going my way. Life started to fade away.
Ray, first off, amazing vocal. I love what you're doing here, and you had some really, really cool melodic moments happening in that top line. That was awesome. Very cool. I got a couple of things to say, but not very much. One thing I want to comment on. Tom is the man, as everybody knows. He put on here that the snare brush is a little distracting, and I would agree with him, except in really kind of like, I don't know, avant-garde isn't the right word. Sometimes something needs to be so loud that it jumps out of the speaker and annoys you. Not even annoys, but just like distracts you from the lead vocal, or it's just obviously too loud, and that's cool. Like Radiohead does this all the time. That's a great example of it. Sohn, S-O-H-N, does it. Kanye West has tracks that do that a lot. I love when stuff like that happens when it's tasteful. Now, tasteful being a key word, you don't want to be distracting the whole time, or like have it sound like it's supposed to be a part of the drum pattern and then it's happening all of the time. But every once in a while when stuff like that jumps out and it just sounds like, I don't know, like it doesn't hit the listener as a mistake. When we're in this mixing world with our Brainiac monitors on and all of that, and we're looking for problems in the mix or whatever, we're like, whoa, that was a distraction. but it could be a very cool distraction. You know, it's the same way that like people take buckets of paint and throw it at a canvas and then call it art. Like it's still art, you know, which is fun. So I like when stuff like that happens. I would say be very, again, here's that word, be very intentional of where you place it, and it's going to enhance that vision of it. Maybe sometimes the brush comes down and then other times it's loud or something like that. But you have things like happening with the strings and everything that are doing the same kind of idea. And I love that. I think it's really cool. I love the song. I think you did a great job on it. The last thing I was going to say is I think it's in the strings at the end. They might not be digital or whatever, but there's something, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say digital. It just kind of lacks a little bit of character in the sound of it. And, I was thinking about, okay, well, what would I do if I wanted to, you know, sort of, make that a little bit more interesting for, yeah, whatever that means. So I would take, a preamp, you know, I like, personally, I do this kind of thing with like the UA 610 or the UA 1073. Mixwave is a fairly new company that they just released this coil thing that I've been playing with. It's called the CA-70S. And it's just a plug-in emulation of a coil audio preamp, which they make like awesome tube channel strips. But the thing that happens when you run through, in this case, it would be a line amp, right? So you'd be running through at line level. When you push into a circuit like that, you almost get a little bit of a natural compression sound with some added harmonic excitement. We're not necessarily looking for distortion. We're just looking for something that like kind of rounds out some of those transients and almost slows it down a little bit. Let me play the end part one more time to explain what I'm talking about. So it's a strings on the right. And I might even try it with the more legato thing on the left, but I feel like if those just had a little bit of like analog rounding, which would really just be things getting slowed down, transients getting soaked up, and a little bit of harmonic saturation that doesn't sound like distortion necessarily, that might be something cool that would help that sit in the mix, but you could still have it as loud as you do where it's poking out the way that we were talking about before. I love that song. That was a really, really cool track. Thanks for submitting that, Ray. I hope that was useful. Very cool. All right, let's see what else we got going on. Cool. All right. Oh yeah, we're getting some Tom love in the chat. So guys, quick thing on Tom. This is really cool. So Tom is here by design. Tom is a little bit of a Puremix plant to pull the wool away from everybody's eyes. Tom is an assistant to Fab on so many sessions, and Fab has been a huge mentor to Tom. Tom is a beast. When you spend that much time around people like that go through flux every day, and he's in there doing sessions all the time, he's definitely a beast, and it's amazing that like he's here to comment on people's stuff all the time too. So he always has really great comments, and I've even had clients of mine submit mixes on here, and Tom's commented on it and been like, oh yeah, that's right, Tom, I am going to do that for sure. So Tom is amazing. I love Tom. Everybody, whenever you get some Tom comments, it's a good thing. Okay. Let's see what we got here. We got, next up, this is going to be from Studio Jaman. This is Diversity While Coming Together. Always know I'm in for a treat. Here we go. So I am going to play sections of this because his tracks are always this journey from beginning to end, but we might have to spot jump a little bit because his track is 10 minutes long. Here we go. All right, I gotta skip ahead here. It's very hard to skip because these things are always really, really fun to go through. But in the interest of time and getting to everybody's mix, I have to. So I love this section back here. It's amazing. So I'll read his description of it as well here in a second because he always writes great descriptions. But this section back here, it literally felt like you heard nature being taken over by a city moving in. That's really cool. So just to read the description, because I know my text is a little garbly on screen here, but it says instrumental track with various musical elements to it, including that of various world music. Intended as a theater dance piece, but also for possible use in film or TV. Hope it flows well and is balanced. My reaction to the crazy world that we live in, where the world seems to have shrunk so much that we should be more like neighbors, more of a world community, like a very rich gumbo with everything thrown into one large pot, all the flavors coming together without being a melting pot, while still retaining our diverse cultures and traditions at the same time. Hope you like it. And then he says, please forgive the length. It's his opus to the world, finding common ground while retaining our own uniqueness. Very, very cool. And your pieces are always great for this. I'm a broken record with this. I would basically echo Tom's comments so far. Again, talking about Tom being awesome. This section right here where it went into the electronical part, I felt like there was a dip in energy there. And my only big comment would just be making sure that you don't lose momentum from section to section unless it's for to help you tell the story that you're telling. That can be a very powerful writing device as well to steal momentum from the listener, from the viewer or whatever. But yeah, as it moved into the electronic piece, it felt like it dropped in energy there. And then, in the string section there, it felt like the bass part was on top of one of the other more legato cello parts there. It might be interesting to pan those apart from each other. And then in terms of sound design stuff, some things I've heard in some of your mixes are more mixed than this. So it'd be very time consuming to mix a 10-minute song with so many scene changes like this. But I think like a little bit more intention around the space of each section might be really cool. So experimenting with different depths and all of that to really sell this idea. Especially that was really, it definitely paints a picture though, especially like that part I was talking about, that it felt like the city was moving into nature and all of that. Very cool. Let's just check out the end section here to make sure. I'm going to have to come back and listen to this because it's super cool, but here we go. As a reminder, that's the same track as this. And this. Mike, I love your tracks. Thank you so much for submitting this, and I'm always in awe of how you do this stuff. Even since the last Mix Tank that I saw you on, like, when did you have time to make this? It's amazing. That's great. Very cool. I'll come back and check it out. But yeah, I just say like each section, just give it a little bit, little more love on the mix and take it to where you want to take it. But I think this is sounding really cool. So cool. Hope that's useful. Very cool. All right. Let's move on to our next tune. And that is Keith Warman's Man on the Run. And then we have Palisades Fatal. If I've missed you so far and you didn't hear me just call out your song, drop it in the comments and I'll get to it. We got about, yeah, let's get to them. Here we go. This is Man on the Run. It says a classic rock song originally recorded in 1974 by a local band named Topaz. We were unable to recover the original multi-tracks for remixing. They're recorded on an 8-track reel-to-reel TIAC, and no amount of baking the tape was going to help. So we decided to reproduce it from scratch. A few well-known locals were involved in this, and we had a lot of fun. Words and music, Robert Bisnell. Lead vocals, Keith Landry. And oh, nice, the #1 Toto tribute band in the world. That's not an easy thing to do. Keys and background vocals, Nathan Blanchard and Eddie Boudin, drummer. And yeah, very cool. Here we go. Marc Boussard's horn section. He produced and mixed it, and this is the 3rd edition of this mix after receiving some feedback from Tom Fuller and Brad Heck. Both great people. That is amazing. Jeff just broke out his bell bottoms. Jeff Kleister's got his bell bottoms out. That's how amazing this is. That was fantastic. So one thing I love about this, so he says, originally recorded in '74 by a local band named Topaz. Can you imagine, like, if you're in a small town, not you LA guys, you have amazing people all around you. Could you imagine if you're like in a town that's not, you know, a major music area, you like walk into a bar and a band sounds like this? That'd be amazing. So I'd like to know where this local band is from. That's what I want to know, Keith. Super cool. Yeah. So I would have some like, there's like a filter that these comments, the comments that I have for this run through, and that's you did such a great job of being respectful of the time meaning like the production style of the time, the tone of the time, the balance choices of the time. Like it feels like a track that was recorded in that time period. And although you couldn't bake the tape and save the original multi-track, it sounds like you did, if that makes sense. So great job on this. And I'm trying to think back to other songs that I know the mix is well enough to say things like, is the vocal loud enough or is the guitar loud enough? So I have to like kind of put that, I don't know, pre-description on what I'm about to say, I guess, or that disclaimer on what I'm about to say. The main thing for me was I felt like the rhythm guitars that were just holding it down on the hard left and right, they felt like they were a little bit loud and they were kind of in front a little bit too much, specifically during things like the guitar solo, but it made the vocal feel recessed as well, which is one of the things I was trying to think back on. Were vocal levels around that level at that time period? And another part, like the shaker comes out really loud. But if you go back to Michael Jackson's Beat It, as soon as that shaker comes in, that thing is screaming. Like that would be the first thing that people would say on Mixtank if Bruce Swedien had uploaded Beat It by Michael Jackson to Mixtank, right? Everybody would be like, whoa, shaker's hot. You got to turn that shaker down. And then I'd come on here and be like, oh, that shaker is in front of the lead vocal and say a bunch of stuff like that. Believe me, it doesn't matter. Beat It did just fine. So thinking back though, Beat It, I think it's Beat It. I think I'm thinking of the right song, but the vocals in that are also a little bit low, and it was kind of a time period thing. So my thoughts were the vocals a little bit quiet. Keith, we're going to talk about South Louisiana in a second because there's something in the water. But the vocals a little bit quiet. The lead guitar solo felt quiet to me. So those are the comments that I would put on there. But again, with the disclaimer of I'd need to go listen to some records from then if you're going really for that style and go listen to see. It might just fit in that vein and that style of music, and that was a preference. I know, for example, in the 90s, like with grunge rock, vocals weren't on top of everything like they would be on a Kansas City Chiefs record, for example. So a little Super Bowl joke there. Billie Jean, that's the one. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Billie Jean is the one that I was thinking of, not Beat It. Yeah, so that's, I think that's what I got. I don't really know what else to say on that. I think it's a phenomenal mix. I think the production is great. The choices, even down to the synth patches, like listen to this at the end here. This is it. It's amazing. So I think everything is kind of a stylistic choice in here, and there's not a whole lot to say, oh, this or that. Like I think that you did a great job on this. The only thing that really I would, like to hear is those rhythm guitars, say, in this section of the verse.
He's out for you and me. Someone's gotta set him free. Gotta stop him while he's young.
Just the bump, bump, bump. Those guitars feel like they're a little bit hot to me, but they're also setting up the vibe. So I think that you know exactly what you're doing on this. And it's awesome. Great job. Thank you for putting it in. Really, really cool. Yeah, Chris, definitely. So Chris said these comments are reminding me of the importance of reference tracks. Yeah, absolutely. Reference tracks are amazing for so many reasons. And actually, that reminds me, I want to put a playlist in the YouTube chat for you guys. And the songs that are in this playlist don't really matter. These are ones that I found in the last like maybe 3 weeks or so. That I just, every time I kind of hear something, I'll make like one of these playlists and then just have it for myself to reference back to. So there's a playlist on Spotify, The Devil, that I made that just has vocal levels on it. And if you don't use Spotify, I'll just tell you the songs right now. It's Capsize from a band called Texas King, Run from the Foo Fighters, Lovin' on Me from Jack Harlow, and Can't Get Enough from Jennifer Lopez. These are ones that I've heard on the radio or somebody has shared with me. Run is one that I always use for vocal reference levels, or when I'm trying to like teach the concept of putting the vocal behind the snare, for example. There's a section in there that there's a distorted vocal that's really wide. It's a very, very angry song, but distorted vocal, very wide, very much in front of the mix. And then it cuts back to a single vocal up the middle, and it's sitting behind the snare drum. And it's amazing that's behind the snare drum because it does this thing where it sounds like he's trying to scream over top of the band, but he can't. So I always use that one when I'm trying to teach this concept. But then Capsize, Lovin' on Me, Can't Get Enough. Those are ones I heard on the radio, and I was like, oh, that's a good example of vocal level. I'll throw that on this list. So this is my last week-ish reference point of this kind of stuff. But anyway, reference mixes, yes, all the time. Very, very important. And choosing appropriate reference mixes too. Like you wouldn't, go to mix Man on the Run by Keith Warman and use Lovin' on Me from Jack Harlow as a reference for it. So again, style appropriate is very important, and just stuff that you like. So hope that's helpful. The Jack Harlow song is called Lovin' on Me. So I can't put images in the YouTube chat, unfortunately. But yeah, Lovin' on Me, Jack Harlow. So I'll read them one more time. Capsize by Texas King. Run by the Foo Fighters. Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow. And Can't Get Enough, Jennifer Lopez. Cool. Those are my 4 recent ones. But yeah, basically like listen through those, and it's not like a right or wrong thing. It's just like a note where things are. I don't know. I find it interesting. So cool. Let me see if we got anybody else. Guys, if I missed you, Palisades Fatal is coming up next. And if I missed you, let me know in the chat. Here we go. Palisades, let me know if I need to get my lights ready. Awesome. So fun. I always get to break out the lights when you put a track on. That's great. I only have a few comments on this. There was this goes to a bit of a genre thing, and also like how well you know the genre, which I'm not an expert in this genre, but I wanted first comment to be like I wanted some more kick punch in there, especially on the end. However, as Harriosa pointed out, he says, "How did you solve the kick bass masking?" So on this one. You did on this, but I feel like you had to prioritize one or the other. So it feels to me like you chose to go bass forward versus like kick punch and all of that, because a lot of times you have to make a decision like that with this kind of music, especially because of the limited dynamic range, I think. But yeah, so I guess point being, I would like to hear more kick punch on this, but I might not be genre appropriate either. So I only have two other comments, and that is I felt like we lost a little bit of momentum going from section to section right here. And I think it's because of what's happening with the kick. There's a little bit more punch here than what happens when this next section pops in and it goes sort of more bass forward. So momentum's a big thing. And there was maybe a comment about the kick sound here. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a judgment call there, but I would be looking a little bit for transient snap on the kick. And then when you go into the next section, making sure that you don't lose the kick. The pulse is still there. I feel it. But I don't have like a hard, driving kick that's like pushing me forward. The last comment I have is on this section. I felt like the synths that are wide have a lot of saturation on them to the point that they become a little fatiguing and a little blurry. So right here. Maybe it's not there. Hold on. It's the wide synths that are a little higher. I felt like if you kept the same level of those things, but just brought down the saturation, we get a little bit more depth out of them. So they're naturally, when you distort something, you're also limiting it. That's why decapitator is called decapitator. It's actually clipping off the tops of it, right? So if you have ever gone too far with decapitator and just obliterated the dynamic range, and then you pull that back, and like the dynamics of that, obviously they come back the same way that if you way over compress something, that can happen with saturators. So I feel that if you pulled some of the saturation back on those, it would create some more depth in the thing, and then also help out with the build, because you wouldn't have one element in there that is telling the listener this is what no dynamic range feels like. So just a thought, but it's also sound design, and again, it's up to you. But great track as always. Thanks for letting me break out my lights. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody's songs on here. I think that's going to do it for us today, guys. It's awesome. Yeah, and there's really good stuff happening in the chat right now. Different comments about different things to do with tracks like that. Chris W's getting his disco ball. Cool. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much. It's amazing music today. That was really, really fun. Yeah, I say it every time, but it's incredible like how good the stuff is on Mixed Tank, and really appreciate you guys coming, showing up. Again, it was so great to meet so many of you guys at NAMM, and this has been an absolute blast. Surprise, we're back next Monday with Andrew Sheps. We're going to wrap up the Awesome People Talk to Andrew series. next Monday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be a blast. So that'll be, we think, the last part of Andrew's interview. But who knows with these things? He tends to, we just go until it's over. So we'll see what happens. Guys, thanks again so much. It's a blast doing this one. And we'll be back very soon with some more plugin shows. We'll be ramping back up with Mixtank here. We had a little post-NAMM Thrax deal going on, so I had to take a week off. But we're back. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching. See ya.